up.
No, that's not.
Well.
Over there.
No, that's not true.
That is me. I swear to God, that's me.
What's happening, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It's Nefertiti, and I'm back with another video. Okay, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. What I'm going to be covering is a story about Princess Diana. So, just follow me. I got as much information as I could. I actually am probably going to do a part 2 because there is a lot to cover. But I just have some questions here because I just feel like I don't think it's the way everyone's making it seem. I don't really just think she just died in a car crash. I feel like there's more to it. I mean, I know she died in a car crash, but I feel like there's some questions there. Well, I feel like it was planned. That's just my opinion, but I just want to do a little recap of her life and who she was and, what she went through whenever she was in the royal family. If you know information, that's cool. You can also put it below, but I just want to, just go over what I found out so far. Okay, so our lovely Princess Diana, she was born in July 1961. Just so you guys know, I did take notes, so I'm going to be looking. Her mother was Frances, and her dad was John Spencer. Now, her parents, they didn't really get along that well, so they end up divorcing around whenever Princess Diana was 7 years old. But let me also say that they had lots of money, so they had ties to the royal family. You know what I mean? So just so you know, keep that in mind. But she had 4 siblings. One actually died before she was born, and then she had her brother and she had sisters. Now, whenever when her dad and her mom split up, her and her brother went with their dad, and her sister went to boarding school. But by the time that Diana was about 10 years old, she ended up going to boarding school as well. Now, one thing that Diana loved is she loved kids. So as she got a little bit older, she used to work as a nanny for an American family that lived in London. She also worked as a nursery teacher, and she was an assistant at the Young England School in London. She enjoyed taking care of kids. She was very charismatic and a genuine person. That was something that she loved to do, is she really loved to take care of children. When Diana was about 16 years old was whenever she first met Prince Charles. Okay, now Prince Charles used to date her sister before they ever dated. Okay, so just he was mess with both of the sisters, but their families they had ties, so their families were both royalty. So she comes from a very wealthy background. Her family went to the same church as Prince Charles's mother, so that's how they kind of knew each other. So the first time she ever met him was when he was dating her sister. So she already kind of knew who he was. She didn't know him personally, but she seen him around because he dated her sister. Now, there was a time when there was a gathering. So I guess I'm assuming that the sister and Prince Charles ended up breaking up, okay? Because there was a gathering, and Prince Charles seen her at this gathering, and he took liking to her because he thought she was beautiful, and innocent. So, he was feeling Miss Princess Diana. Now, they began to date whenever Diana was about 17 years old. And whenever she turned 18, they end up getting married. Now, when they got married, Prince Charles was 29 and Diana was 18. Okay, so he had some years on her, but I guess that was normal back in them days. Before Princess Diana said yes to the dress, she didn't really know what she was getting herself into. She didn't know how much pressure it would be to be a princess of the royal family. She just thought she was dating somebody that she really loved, and she thought she was just, being in a relationship with someone that she truly cared about, but she didn't know what came with it. It came with a great responsibility. There was a lot that she had to do. She had to go out and she had to go speak to people and walk around all day and waving her hands and saying hello and helping out people and talking to widows and talking to children and talking to politicians. She had to, she really had to play a role as a princess. And we always see the glitz and glam, but we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Now, when the world seen Princess Diana, they took a liking to her. They fell in love with her because she was beautiful, okay? She was blonde, she had the blue eyes, and she just had such an innocence about her. And people really loved Princess Diana. They really was feeling her. Okay? And when I tell you that Princess Diana, she was the world's princess. She was the people's princess. That's what they say. She was the people's princess. She took them by, people just really loved her. And I really truly believe that the royal family got more publicity whenever she became princess, because it's way more paparazzis were out, way more people would be at events whenever Princess Diana was there. They loved everything about her. From her style, she was always on the media for what she wore and what she was doing and where she was at. Now, it seems like that's pretty cool, but to her, that was kind of bombarding, is because she couldn't really be herself. She couldn't really just live a normal life. She had to always have cameras around her, so she was always bombarded by paparazzis. But the thing about her, the thing about the media loving her so much, the thing about the world loving her so much, not just London, people around the world, was just something that she never asked for. She wasn't trying to be this person that everyone liked. She was just being herself, and they just loved her for who she was. But I truly believe that this gave the royal family a little bit of jealousy towards her, especially Prince Charles, because she took a lot of the light off of him, and it was on her. Now, when they first got married, okay, the day of the wedding, when they got married in the I can't remember, it was a church that they go to. It was the personal church that Queen Elizabeth goes to. Now, it was big enough for about 3,500 people, I believe. However, 750 million people watched all around the world. That is the most people they have ever had watch the royal family when it comes to weddings. That's crazy. But they did this because, they loved Prince Charles, of course, but it was really Princess Diana that drew the people in, So that's one of the highest numbers in the royal history. It was said that Princess Diana was one of the most famous people on earth. Ain't that crazy? Now, when she was about 21 years old, that's when she first got pregnant with Prince William. Okay? And that was her first son. And, well, after she had Prince William, she went into postpartum depression. And if you guys are mothers, or if you have of course you have a mom, but if you ever ask your mom what postpartum is, they can tell you that it's pretty much a depression after you have a baby and you have all these thoughts, and sometimes you just don't want to do it, and you just don't feel good about yourself. So she went into postpartum depression. However, they labeled her as unstable because she was feeling down about herself. But it was said, this is allegedly the royal family didn't really have too much of a care about how she felt or what was going on with her. They kind of were cold. So she didn't really have no one to go to vent to talk to about how she really felt. So she just dealt with that pain.
It wasn't long after the wedding before you became pregnant. What was your reaction when you learned that the child was a boy?
Enormous relief. I felt the whole country was in labour with me. And enormous relief. But I had actually known William was going to be a boy because the scan had shown it, so of course no surprise.
How did the rest of the royal family react when they learned that the child that you would have was going to be a boy?
Well, everybody was thrilled to bits. It had been quite a difficult pregnancy. I hadn't been very well throughout it. So by the time William arrived, there was great relief because it was all peaceful again and I was well for a time. Then I was unwell with postnatal depression, which no one ever discusses postnatal depression. You have to read about it afterwards. And that in itself was a bit of a difficult time. You'd wake up in the morning feeling you didn't want to get out of bed, you felt misunderstood, and just very, very low in yourself.
Was this completely out of character for you?
Yes, very much so. I've never had a depression in my life. But then when I analysed it, I could see that the changes I'd made in the last year had all caught up with me, and my body had said, we want a rest.
What was the family's reaction to your postnatal depression?
Well, maybe I was the first person ever to be in this family who ever had a depression, or was ever openly tearful. And obviously that was daunting, because if you've never seen it before, how do you support it?
She dealt with her struggles. Now, she dealt with her struggles in a way that wasn't the best, though. She ended up struggling with bulimia, and if you guys don't know what that is, it's whenever you eat a lot and you throw up. This was a way for her, it was a coping mechanism for her. So she didn't do no drugs, she didn't do alcohol, and she did it where people wouldn't know. So nobody knew that until she said it, nobody knew that she was dealing with bulimia until it was revealed, you know. So that was her coping mechanism. She didn't want to take her pain out on nobody else, or her sorrows out on nobody else. So she found a way to do it, and that was the way she did it. And she said it works for her for the moment. Shortly after Princess Diana had Prince William, she had Prince Harry, which was 2 years later when she was 23 years old. But we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. She dealt with a lot, and I truly believe that a lot of her pain came from her marriage, because it was cool at first, but going through the marriage, like during the marriage, they had some ups and downs, just like any marriage, but this one was a lot different because Prince Charles was really in love with somebody else. Yeah. Princess Diana was not the only person that he was in love with. I believe she also did ways to get attention. That was her cry for help. But even though she was crying for help, she wasn't getting it. So it was like Prince Charles stopped giving her attention. He stopped giving her affection, and she really wanted that. And she loved her husband, and she wanted things to work with him. But his heart was not with her. His heart was with Camilla. And, so that played a big part in their marriage, in it breaking up and having problems in it. Now, 4 years into the marriage, she was really tired of feeling alone. She felt very alone. She felt very isolated from her family, from, just regular life and her husband, because it just seemed like he didn't really care for her the way that he used to. And it just seems like his heart was somewhere else. And even though she didn't have evidence at first, she just knew in her spirit, she just felt that gut feeling that something was going on. But a few years into her marriage, she started to fall for her bodyguard. Okay? And it was just like she liked the attention. Like, I don't know if they had a thing going on that was never I couldn't find out if they actually had a thing, but I do know that she was saying that she had a thing for him, and she would get like excited when he would come around. Like she would be happy. She would act like a little girl because, you know, she actually got attention from him, and she wasn't getting that from her own marriage. And she was saying that was like the only time she would be happy is when he would come around, and she really started to like him, more so love him. All right, and eventually the royal family found out. So, you know, if they find out something can tear down their monarchy, it gotta go. Now, when they found out, they were not too happy. No, not at all. They were not too happy that she had taken liking to him and that she was feeling the way she was feeling about him. So, eventually, he ended up dying in a motorcycle crash, which Princess Diana believed that it wasn't just a crash. She believed that somebody was paid to get him out of there, if you know what I mean. Okay? And when this happened, she was devastated. And she had to go to some type of event, I think a ball or something that night whenever Prince Charles told her, because he told her about it. He was like, yeah, so your bodyguard, he died in a motorcycle crash. But she said he said it like so nonchalant, like it was just another day. And so she was so devastated, but she had to get out of the limo and she's in front of all of these people with paparazzis with cameras, and people were waving at her and all these fans. So she had to act like everything was okay. You would have never known that she was devastated, but that whole day she said she felt so sad and so devastated. So, you know, life goes on, and she was crushed about that. But she knew, like, as years went by, she said about the 5th year in their marriage, she really knew that Prince Charles was, he was with Camilla, pretty much. He was spending time with her. She could just tell that he was with her, and she just felt it, you know. And she finally got the guts one day to ask Camilla, like, hey sis, like, what's going on with you and my husband? And Camilla denied it, but she's like, no, I know, you don't have to lie. I know what's going on. So she even said that the marriage was crowded. She said it was her, Prince Charles, and Camilla.
Around 1986, again according to the biography written by Jonathan Dimbleby about your husband, he says that your husband renewed his relationship with Mrs. Camilla Parker Bowles. Were you aware of that?
Yes, I was. But I wasn't in a position to do anything about it.
What evidence did you have that their relationship was continuing even though you were married?
A woman's instinct is a very good one.
So you were isolated?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Because, let's keep it real, all these years, Prince Charles never wanted to get rid of Camilla. Before he ever dated Princess Diana, he was with Camilla, but his family did not approve of it. I don't know why they didn't approve of it, but they didn't approve of her being a part of the royal family, I guess, at that time. So he had to marry somebody else, but really, I think that's who he always loved. All right, so they end up getting divorced 11 years later. What is it? August of 1996. Okay. Whenever Princess Diana and Prince Charles first separated, which was, they divorced in August of 1996. After that, he cut her off. She didn't have no more resources to the royal family. She didn't have no more benefits with the royal family. She was on her own. But she did get a settlement from him of $22.5 million, which was $600,000 a year. So she was learning to do things on her own. She was starting to find her voice. She was starting to find out who she really was in this world, because whenever she was a princess, she really didn't have her own opinion. She couldn't be who she wanted to be. She had to be who they wanted her to be. So she's finally on her own. She's still a wonderful mother. She loved her kids dearly. She was a very great mom. She took care of her kids despite of how much pressure she had. She was an excellent mother, and she was very involved in their lives. But whenever Princess Diana got divorced, she ended up having to do things on her own. She ended up having to just find out life, figure out life. And she was learning how to become a better speaker. So she was getting taught how to become a better speaker. And she was speaking elsewhere. She was going to different countries and helping out in different countries and making differences in other places. And, you know, she was actually doing what she loved to do. Not what other people wanted her to do, but what she loved to do. Now, eventually, Princess Diana started to date. You know, in as much as she tried to keep it a secret, the world just was all up in her business. So no matter where she went, they was all up in her business, okay? So, the first guy that we know of was a surgeon. But they didn't make it because he was tired of being behind the scenes, and she had to keep him behind the scenes because she just was so famous that people were so into her business, and she tried to keep it private, but he didn't like that, so it didn't work out. And then she started dating somebody else, but it only lasted a few months. And then eventually, the third guy that she dated was Dodie, which was to said that she was really in love with this guy. Now, who is Dodie? He is the son of a billionaire Egyptian, okay? Now, I don't know what his dad did. I don't know what his profession was, but his dad was a billionaire. And they said that she loved him and that she was in love with him. There were rumors that she was pregnant to him at the time that she passed away, but we don't know if that's true. And there was also rumors that they were engaged. So she really loved him and she cared about him. And, she was out and they would go different places and they would go on vacations. And the only thing is, Diana didn't have no protection after she left the royal family, so she was pretty much on her own. And if she had any type of, security guards, she would have to pay for them herself. Okay. Now, the day of her death, Princess Diana and Dodie were on their way somewhere, and they got into the car and they went through a ton. Well, actually, they got into the car and paparazzis were like following them heavily, like trying to get pictures real crazy, like all up in the car taking pictures, and there's lights flashing. And the driver went through a tunnel because he was trying to get away from them, and they were on motorcycles. The paparazzis were on motorcycles, so they were trying to get away from these paparazzi. So he's flying, but there was a big flash in the tunnel which caused them to crash. Dodie died during the car crash. Like, he didn't make it, and so did the driver. He passed away too. The only one that made it was Princess Diana. She ended up dying at the hospital, but she was still alive after the car crash. Now, this is where the suspicion comes in at, because there's rumors, which I have pictures too, that said Princess Diana had wrote a note saying that she was going to get killed, that when someone wanted to kill her, and that they wanted to plan a car crash for her to die. Okay, so this is where I have to do a part 2. So I'm going to do the rest of my research because there's so many different alleged conversations, and I don't want to be wrong, but something on the inside of me tells me that Princess Diana was murdered. It was not just a car crash. And yeah, they'll say, oh, well, the paparazzis did. But I personally believe they were hired. Okay? And I know she always had paparazzis, like, always around her. But how heavily that they were this day, something's not right. And it's really on me heavy to, like, do this story. And what I'm hoping for is, even though it's been years later, that she can get justice. That her family... And even if it's justice on the inside, even if it's quiet, and if nobody knows about it, even if just they know about it, at least she'll have justice, because justice needs to be served, and it wasn't right what happened to her. She was, a powerful force, even just being herself, and I think that she was intimidating to the royal family. And she would even say that, but she didn't know why. you know, but you never know. She could have known things. We never know what was going on.
I just don't think I have as many supporters in that environment than I did. Yeah.
You mean within the royal household?
They see me as a threat of some kind. And I'm here to do good. I'm not a destructive person.
Why do they see you as a threat?
I think every strong woman in history has had to walk down a similar path. And I think it's the strength that causes the confusion and the fear.
You never know what was going on behind closed doors. But I just want you guys to make sure you stay tuned for part 2 so we can, you know, really get into this. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think about this. Have you ever did research on this story? Have you ever heard anything? What do you think about it? Do you know anything about this story? And yeah, let a sister know. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and be sure to stay tuned for the next video. See you later.